Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I'm here with Jacob today. Welcome to the channel, Jacob.
Thank you for having me, Hunter.
No problem. So today we're going to talk about Yggdrasil connecting to the nine worlds, which I think of as dimensions. And I'm going to give some book recommendations. So when we connect with Yggdrasil, a lot of the time we have to think of it as connecting with it along our own spine with the chakras. So like the nine worlds, which is nine different dimensions and groups of universes in those. They have equivalencies in our chakras, and actually, they advance upward along Yggdrasil, just like our energy advances up the spine. So if somebody's very much focused in, let's say, Jotunheim, if their energy is more like Jotun, chaotic, tribalistic shamanism, but the darker side, they're going to be very much centered in the kind of the root chakra, and then they might be able to go to the good side of the root chakra, or they might be more towards the other side, which is fear. So usually with the root chakra, I think of strength. I think of, we have primal instincts, fear or lack of fear. And once you start off with a good base, once you ground yourself in your root chakra and you conquer that fear, then you can, and conquer that primal instinct, you can go to the next chakra. Now, there's not exact equivalencies, but if you're going to connect to, let's say, so we have at the top, as far as my understanding, the realm of the light elves, which will actually be free from Ragnarok. So what I usually think of as there's certain chakras there's quite a few chakras, there's about 144, but I think of the light elves realm just right above our head. It's kind of like right above the crown chakra, and it kind of floats there. And since that realm will not be affected by Ragnarok, it's kind of like we could hint at it in the Norse pantheon, like it being separate from the body, separate from the chakras that you go through upon death, separate from your actual body, and more in your astral body, which the chakra kind of exists right above the head. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So let's say, because at the minute I'm working with black obsidian crystals to help begin my chakra work. And I use that to connect with my root chakra. So let's say I want to do some exercises for my root chakra to connect deeper with Jotunheim. What would you recommend someone likely do?
So this actually, for this path, you actually have to get into something like Neolithic shamanism and this is very important to read and learn, the Poetic Edda as well as the Prose Edda when it comes to Snorri Sturluson. So this is translated by Lee H. Hollander. Huh?
I have the Jackford Crawford edition of the Poetic Edda, and it's quite well translated, so that's the one I've been studying.
For sure, yeah. Honestly, most translations are pretty good. Not all of them are, but most translations are at this point. But the reason why I say in order to connect with, like, let's say your root chakra and let's say Jotunheim. Let's say that Jotunheim is the root chakra, though it might be a little bit lower as far as on the world tree. But let's just say Jotunheim. So the reason why you want to learn these stories, like in the Poetic Edda and the Prose Edda, is because these stories, they awaken certain things within your astral body, and some of these stories, if you understand them deeply, if you contemplate them, if you meditate upon them, they will bring about change in your astral body, and you'll have a greater connection to that which is beyond your physical body. These stories, they're not just stories, they're actually things that you should meditate on, you should try to learn. So let's say now exercise, getting close to Jotunheim root chakra. Let's say the root chakra is Jotunheim. I have this black organite pyramid that I use for meditation and ritual. So this pyramid is basically for the root chakra. When it comes to crystals, you can have something like this in your hand. You can be holding it while you're sitting in a meditative stance. You can hold it like this, and then you can recite different runes, whatever side of Jotunheim you're trying to connect with. You might want to recite runes that are very much connected to the giants. So the ice giant rune is Isa, in my understanding, and Isa is standstill. It's necessary for that rune to exist, that standstill rune, because you need something to walk upon, to continue forward. You need a foundational solidity, just like the root chakra. You need a foundation to move forward from. Go ahead.
So my understanding of the Isa rune is that it's basically the potential of the universe just standing still, and it's just there in the void at that present time.
Yeah.
So that's my understanding.
Yeah. No, that's also true. When it comes to ourselves as a person, when we're thinking about our own bodies, Isa is very important because it's a bridge that we can move forward on top of instead of just continue to ride in chaos or the abyss.
When I was starting out with the runes, and when I was first getting onto this path, Isa was the first ever rune stone I pulled out of the rune bag. So I meditated on it for like a week, and once you do that for like a week or 2 weeks, you feel like you really knew a particular rune, and your energies kind of combine into what that rune knows how to work with, sort of. And as you mentioned, your crystal, I have this black obsidian pyramid crystal with a pendulum to go along with it for spirit work and stuff. So that's what I use for my root chakra, as it supposedly works well with my particular energies.
For sure. And some people put pressure. They might, I wouldn't say tape something, but they might sit up against a chair and place something on the back of the chair so that there's pressure in your root chakra. And then you can use a form of visualization that, let's say you're picturing this pure blackness, and then you see this blue flame. And then as you breathe, and then the blue flame goes up, and you imagine it at the base of your spine, this blue flame going up. I guess it can be red, but for Isa, it's more of an ice rune. So as you breathe in, you imagine it going up. Then when you breathe out, it's going back down. And then you keep on doing that. And by having that pressure on it and doing this visualization and breathing exercise, that rune will become more solid and you'll be able to bounce off that to higher chakras or higher worlds, higher understanding of higher worlds. The runes, I wouldn't, Isa is usually associated with ice giants, or the beings we think of as ice giants. So they would definitely be Jotunheim oriented. But when it comes to directly connecting to Jotunheim, you might want to learn a lot of rune poems. You might want to, like you said, meditate on Isa, but also meditate on the purpose of the Jotun, of the giants. What purpose do they serve? Why? How are they connected to nature? Research this, and yeah.
Well, I don't know if you've ever heard of somebody called Thunder Wizard. It's a website called thunderwizard.com. And he did a series of lectures on like yin and yang and how it all relates with Norse mythology. And from his perspective, that I basically taken on as my own, because he explains it really well, is that the giants sort of represent the laws of physics and the sort of void that they're manifesting in. So basically all the energy that's left is what the giants represent, and that's what kind of is manifested in the giants, is what energy is left over from everything else that's been created, and that kind of represents the sort of like the void and the giants.
Ancient primordial chaos. Similar to the idea of the ancient ones in the Necronomicon and what have you. But yeah, when it comes to a lot of it, as far as like physical exercises, visualizations like that are great. Breathing exercise, meditation. Also, you might want to subject yourself to the elements. So if you're connecting with Jotunheim, for instance, you might want to consider going into a freezer and standing there and even finding a mantra or a rune poem and repeating it again and again and again that's associated with Jotunheim, and really feeling the extreme intensity of that cold and see how your body responds to it. Training yourself to deal with that element, and repeating that poem will actually kind of like unlock something within yourself, that old connection. But it'll have to be really cold. I guess if you're trying to connect with Surta, you might want to expose yourself to extreme heat and repeating a rune poem. You might also want to do standas. Now, standas are this is just for the runes, but standas are you're putting yourself into various forms and then focusing on that rune, basically making the rune with your body and repeating it in different ways. So if it's a standstill, you might want to if Isa, you might want to stand up and down and picture that rune Isa, that rune as red though on a black background. You always want to make the rune red and have a black background when you're visualizing it. You might want to stand up straight with your feet together and say Isa, 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 Sa, and different variations of Isa. And it's very useful for rituals. Go ahead.
So the rune space can become the mantras of what you will say during meditation or prayer until you kind of connect with it.
And there's and going through these standas is another way to connect to the rune, and also of course repeating a mantra like that. So if I was going to, some of them are very specific. So like Ingus is like this, where you have your elbows to the sides, and when it comes to Ansus is of course you kind of put. I know it's kind of hard to see, but you kind of place yourself on the side like this, and you make the rune with your hands, and you say, of course you say Ansus. And you might want to move your arms a little bit as you're doing it, as if you're conjuring it.
Yeah.
So standas are very useful for ritual purposes and rituals magical rituals that unlock that hidden knowledge that's always within us. Do you have any questions moving forward?
So whilst on the topic of the runes, so I do a lot. Sometimes I do magic alongside my Norse practices because that's what me and my mother do. And I designed a wand to go with it, and I carve runes onto it. And I use the Ulas rune, the Ladios rune, and the Fehu rune as sort of to represent the Fehu will be like the message and intent you wish to send. The Ulas represents the energy within you, and then Ladios represent your energy along with the message or intent, basically manifesting in the universe. So would you say that is about right to have carved into, say, a wand?
Oh, for sure. Well, I mean, there's so many variations that are effective. I think that what you did was effective. It's very much about connection to the process and crafting it yourself more so than this or that being effective. Really, even if you do something carve something that's ineffective, and you can make it effective through your own practice. But I'd highly recommend carving your own runes, or like cutting down the branch, cutting into slices, carving runes into them, maybe even burning them so that they're black. Of course, maybe painting them red beforehand or after you carve them. Red is always associated with runes, even if it's a rune that you wouldn't think of as being red. Runes are always, red is the color of the runes because it goes down to passion, it goes down to primordial. And when it comes to Uruz, I will say that Uruz is one of my, you can say, patron runes. I usually think of it as primordial strength. And of course, we get Uruz from the word Arak, which is basically these 9-foot tall, on all fours, kind of bison things that northwestern Europeans hunted to extinction. That's where we get the name Uruz. So it's definitely a big part. It feels to me like primordial strength, and of course, when you're dealing with the rune, something that's just as valid as far as presentation is that, of course, it looks like under a lowercase n, but what is hinted at is that this end is kind of like folding in on itself. Like if you draw it with these arrows and it goes further and further in the middle.
It's kind of circular. It's kind of like a circular N because of the way it's tilted. That's the way I like to. Yeah,
no, that's perfectly valid. I usually think of it as more of an angular. The runes are very angular to me as far as like how they were drawn. But I mean, you can use a circular N. That's fine. But yeah. So when I think it's important. You said a ritual wand. I think it's also important to have a ritual blade. I did a feeding my Thame video not too long ago, a couple days ago.
My theme is sitting on my altar right now, if you would like to see it.
Sure. I always, this is funny because I never really remember how a Thame is pronounced. I pronounce it a Thame, but I've heard other people call it a Thame. I just don't know which one it is.
It's just because of the way we pronounce things with ease compared to America.
Yeah, it's fine.
So, that is my theme. It's Roman based. So it's based on it's based on Rome.
Those are the daggers that legionaries carried, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that one. So a couple things so what I did with my Athame, which I would recommend to you is, and anybody else watching this, is to give it a name and basically engrave that name into it. Engraving pins are very cheap. $20, you can buy an engraving pin that'll perform it won't last very long as far as the engraving pin if you buy a $20 one, but it'll be just enough to where you can basically engrave the name into the Athame. And then what I do is I'll regularly place blood over the name on my Athame to energize it and feed it, just like as if it was a servitor. So
is there anything else you can use other than blood?
You don't have to use it. Well, two things. One, if you're going to use blood, use your own. Never use any other kind of blood. Two, you don't have to use blood. You can use clean water from a stream. You can wash your Athame in that and recite its name or recite the runes that you put onto it, however you want to do it. You can stab it into the ground and really allow the energy of the Athame to refresh itself, putting all the negativity back into the earth that can handle it. Leave it in the ground for a few hours to a day, then take it back out.
So it's very similar to like a consecration ritual also.
Yeah. And I would recommend doing it, well, I guess once a month is a good amount, but if you use it all the time, the more like negativity, like the little negativities, it's not like we're doing negative rituals, but like little things can kind of attach themselves to Athame. So you want to do something like once a month. I cleanse mine and refocus mine with my own blood, but you don't have to. You can use various, just make sure if you're using earth, don't stab it into earth that has like a lot of pesticides or something. Find some fresh earth, find a really good stream. Those can work just as well. I'm a blood magician, so I have my, preferences, but yeah.
Yeah, I try them. Well, I don't really use blood in my practice because I just think we shouldn't waste life force for magical purposes, personally. But
that's fair.
Yeah, I just thought I'd ask you for alternatives because I know you put a lot of emphasis to that in your personal videos.
Yeah, and when I use a crystal wand. I haven't named it, and I haven't really. I kind of cleanse it every now and then, but my preference has always been this crystal wand, and it doesn't seem to have negativity that gets attached to it. But I mean, you can use whatever for a wand, but this is mine. It's quartz. I found it very effective because quartz is good for
so that's mine. It's literally just a piece of wood from a tree opposite my house. Yeah. So I used the land near me to connect with it, so it'd be more powerful.
Yeah, it definitely looks like a good piece of wood for a wand for sure, and it looks like you carved the runes in fairly well. So when it comes to, I think we should make 2 parts to this because usually I like to make videos like just under 20 minutes because they upload better. Yeah. People stay focused. So go ahead.
You can go quite into depth with this sort of topics, where it can be like up to an hour. Some days.
Yeah. So it's like 20-minute video is really easy to upload, really easy people to digest. So maybe we should end it here and then we'll make a part 2 like right now. Yeah. But you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for watching this part 1. Thank you, Jacob, for joining me in part 1.
You're welcome.
And we'll get to the part 2 right now. At any rate, thank you all very much for watching, and I will see all of you in just a minute.